Somerset lost for the first time this season the Yorkshire Bank 40 competition in spite of a Peter Trigo 100. Josh Cobb and Greg Smith went even better to see Leicestershire chase down an unlikely 324 runs with 7 balls to spare on a remarkable day at Grace Road. Put in by Cobb, Somerset got off to their usual flyer through Marcus Trescothick and Trigo. While their top order can hardly buy a run in the Championship, they are scoring a bundle in this competition, hammering all comers thus far thanks largely to the amazing starts that they've been given by these two. On a flat pitch with the sun burning down from above, it wasn't too long before both batsmen started to find their range with sixes. It really has been an awesome start by these two, and this day was no different as one hit followed another. These maximums all came in the opening 7 overs, and by the end of the first 10, Somerset had already posted a score of 70 without loss. Both batsmen made it to the half-century mark. Trescothick got there first in the 13th over, naturally bringing it up with a big 6 off Shiv Thakur. That was Trescothick's third maximum in his 40-ball knock. Trigo was to his 4th 50 in 4 Yorkshire Bank 40 games this year. He got to his latest at the start of the 15th over with his 7th 4 to go with his 1-6. This half-century occupied 43 deliveries and had set up the innings rather nicely for his team once again. The end of that over saw Leicestershire break through, Trescothick on 57 being yorked by Rob Taylor to bring an end to an opening partnership of 120. That start gave the rest opportunities to play their shots too. Errol Sapaya struck James Sykes for a 6, before he was bowled by Cobb for a 14-ball 20, leaving with his side on 164 for 2 in the 21st over. The one thing that the terrific Trigo has not been able to do so far this year is to convert his great starts into 100, but this time he did just that. He took in the deserved applause from a good crowd who'd watched him reach 3 figures for the 3rd time in his one-day career off 90 deliveries, from which he'd spanked 12 4s and 1 6. He was out in the 33rd over for 118, slogging Nathan Buck to Matt Boyce, but by the time he was gone, he'd already helped his side to an impressive 241 for 3. One man no one wants to see coming in at this stage is Jos Buttler. He must have one of the best eyes on the county circuit. How else do you explain shots such as these? It must take a lot of practice, of course, but also a lot of natural ability. Typically, Buttler was soon racing through the numbers. He took the shine away from Alvaro Peterson's innings. With all of that going on around him, his 50, which came off 47 balls with just 3 4s, went almost unnoticed, yet it helped his side beyond 300 for the 2nd time this season. And Buttler ensured that Somerset got way beyond that with some remarkable stroke play. The shots he produces are so good that they are simply becoming part of his makeup. We've seen some great cricket innovators over the years, but Buttler has to be up with them all. Just ask Cobb, who was swatted for 2 6s in an over. It took Buttler only 22 balls to reach his 50. He got there with a rare fault shot, but in a hurry, he'd helped his side to an imposing 323 for 3 from their 40 overs. Buttler made 54 and Peterson 63. It was the kind of total that just a few years ago would have been out of the ballpark as far as the opposition were concerned. No longer. Cobb came out and attacked the bowling from the get-go, belting one boundary after another. His partnership with Greg Smith was, quite simply, extraordinary. This over, the 8th, went for 23 runs as the Foxes showed they were right up for the fight by taking 82 runs off the first 8 overs. Cobb may be struggling for runs in the 4-day game, but his form is exceptional in this competition. As he blasted 3 4s off Jamie Overton, he brought up his latest 50 off just 35 deliveries. 112 runs came off the first 10 overs to set up this amazing game nicely, and then Smith reached his 50. He hadn't had much of the strike, so although he didn't reach his mark until the 12th over, he'd only faced 27 balls from which he'd hit 7 4s and a 6. As good as this surface obviously was, Somerset can't have expected this onslaught, which went on and on. Cobb dispatched Craig Macheda for a maximum to move into the 80s in only the 13th over. And his superb 100, his second in 2 games in this season's competition, arrived at the end of the 17th over, by which time his team had posted a score of 180 without loss. Incredibly, Cobb had required only 62 balls for his ton. An amazing 16 fours had come in that, as well as 1 6. It was arguably the innings of the season to date. Nothing Trescothick tried seemed to work as this pair moved into record-breaking territory. By the halfway stage of their innings, Cobb and Smith had brought up the 200 at more than 10 runs per over. Somerset have had a rough time of it recently in Championship cricket, but this was becoming just a little bit silly, as none of their attack had any answer to this pair, who were seemingly setting up an easy win. That was until Steve Kirby yorked Cobb for a quite sensational 87-ball 130 to bring an end to this scintillating stand on 235, which was made in 25 overs. Next over, Joe Burns was LBW to another Yorker, delivered by Overton as Somerset started to fight back. The one man they really needed was Smith, who recorded his maiden one-day 100 in the 27th over. He drilled Kirby over extra cover to reach 3 figures off only 68 balls. That was for number 16 to go with his 1-6, and it was now clear that the visitors needed him out, and quickly. Instead, they kept plugging away at the other end. Macheda had Ned Eckersley caught behind for 5, and the same bowler then removed Boyce with a clear leg before decision, which left the Foxes on 278 for 4, needing a further 46 from the last 8 overs. From there it was a bit of a breeze for Leicestershire. The hard work had been done in that astonishing opening stand, and that meant that Smith and Shiv Thakur could now pick off the runs at will. Not that the incredible boundary count slowed down. Overall, the spectators were witness to 73 fours and 9 sixes during this thoroughly entertaining contest. The winning run came to the 5th ball of the penultimate over. It was some chase from the Foxes, one which will have shocked Somerset, no doubt. Smith will certainly not forget this day in a hurry, as he saw his side home with an undefeated 135, which came off only 109 deliveries. So the margin of victory was 6 wickets, Leicestershire making 324 for 4 from 38.5 overs. They now have 2 wins out of 2, with the Unicorns to come next on Monday, while Somerset lose top spot in Group C to local rivals Gloucestershire after their first defeat.